We're here with Diane Seymour as UT Arlington prepares for the UT Arlington Maverick Classic. And Diane, just to start off, can you give us a brief overview of a few of the opponents you'll face this weekend?
Yeah, it seems like Arkansas Little Rock, we ought to call this the UTA Arkansas Little Rock Invitational. They come every year, so we'll open up against an Arkansas Little Rock team that has got some new faces. They got some transfers from University of New Orleans, but they've got some familiar faces from who we played last year. I think the big thing to note for us is that they did lose to Texas A&M Corpus Christi, so that'll kind of be an opponent that I think we can open up with our first home win, but also kind of see where we stack up against one of our conference opponents. So that'll be the first team that we face, and then later on that evening we'll play against Louisiana Tech, I believe it is. We played them in the spring, matched up very well with them, and again, this is another opponent that has faced someone else in our conference. I noticed that Northwestern State was able to take down Louisiana Tech. So again, that'll give us an opportunity to give us a little idea where we stack up against one of our opponents from the East. But like I said, we played La Tech in the spring, played well against him. He's got some different faces than the spring, but it's a team that I feel like we'll match up well against. The next day we open up with Pan America, the team that again has played one of our conference opponents and beating Lamar. I was a little bit surprised at that, but Lamar, they lost a lot of starters from last year, but again, it can give us an idea where we might stack up against Lamar. We haven't played Pan Am in a number of years. It seems like it was about 4 years ago that they were here at this tournament. We were able to beat them in 5, so I don't know a lot about them, but we look forward to having them in our tournament, and I think, again, we stack up very well against them, and then we'll finish out with probably the best team in the tournament in Mississippi State that's coming from the Southeast Conference. They've got a local kid, the setter. I think she was SEC Player of the Week last week maybe, or Freshman of the Week, something like that. We haven't played Mississippi State in a long time, so we're looking forward to seeing them. Obviously, since they play in one of the better volleyball conferences in the country, they ought to be the best opponent that we'll face in this tournament. But again, I think it's somebody that's doable for us. Their size doesn't scare me at all. It's just going to be that we're not very familiar with them. Fortunately, we'll get a chance to see them play throughout the tournament before we face them on Saturday night. I think that they came out and beat A&M Corpus Christi last weekend, and A&M Corpus Christi is a very much improved team. So I kind of look forward to the fact that we'll face these 4 opponents that I think we match up well against. They've played some of our Southland Conference foes, I guess you'd say, and it'll kind of give us an idea of how well we're going to stack up in the conference early.
How important is it for you guys to go ahead and get that first win early in this tournament? I mean, obviously you guys played well at times last weekend, but came out of the tournament 0-3.
Yeah, definitely want to establish that first win. That's big for us. We always play very well at Texas Hall, so I'm looking forward to getting started on a good note. I think our kids are excited to be at home and play in front of their family and friends a little bit, where they're a little bit more comfortable, and hopefully we gain a lot of confidence throughout the weekend. But the biggest thing is establishing that first win and getting that feeling that we want to strive for every night.
And then let's just get back to Mississippi State for a minute. They went 4-0 last weekend in their tournament. They seem to be playing very well. What has stood out to you?
Well, I think the freshman setter that went in there, I believe she's from Frisco here in the area, she stepped in and done a very good job for them. Familiar face from the Houston area, Caitlin Rance is one of their better players as well. I recall her from our recruiting days a few years back. She hits a very heavy ball, and I'm anxious to see their top performer, Ashley Newsom. She's always done a good job for Mississippi State in the last 2 or 3 years, even though I haven't seen her play. Her name is familiar to me, that she stacks up and leads them in a lot of stat categories. So I think it'll just be exciting to see a new team that we haven't seen in a while.
And if you don't mind, what have you been emphasizing during practice over the last week?
Defense, for sure. Very disappointed at the number of digs that we were able to amass per set. I think that that's been the main focus for us this week, and we've talked about it even a lot since last season, that if we're going to lead the league in blocking, then we're going to have to pick up the number of digs that we have. And right now, as far as the Southland goes, and that's where I kind of weight how we're doing, is we're dead last in the number of digs per set, and that's got to change for us to be successful this season, no matter if it's in our preseason matches or throughout Southland Conference play. We have to dig more balls.
And how much of that was a matter of you guys not being as sharp as you would like to be, and how much of that was playing a few teams that made the NCAA tournament last year?
I do think it could be a combination of both. It's early in the season. You hope your defense gets better as we go. Still kind of looking at some different situations on where to play people in that defensive alignment. And we're going to go with a different situation this weekend. Not different personnel necessarily, but putting them in different spots. and see if they can settle into a spot and make a more production. Obviously, it could be that some of the opponents we faced were very, very offensive in their size and their kind of their experience, I guess, with the NCAA tournament experience.
And Reagan is accustomed to putting up bigger numbers than she put up last weekend. How much of that comes from what they're able to do there on the back line?
Yeah, I think it's a lot of it. I think your dig-to-kill ratio has to pick up for sure. So that's one aspect. But also just offensively. Reagan's numbers will be down if our hitters aren't able to put the ball away, whether it's off of a dig or off of a receive situation. And playing those 3 tough opponents last weekend, our kill production was down. And I would think that our kill production will go up this weekend, as will Reagan's numbers.
And we didn't really touch a whole lot last week on how your middle blockers were doing. How have they looked in practice? How did they look last week? And what are your expectations for them this weekend?
I thought they played very well last week, and their numbers don't indicate it at all. I think that we got in a situation where they were playing against 6'3" middles every night, and I think Reagan didn't force the issue of getting the ball to them, and we talked about that, and we know that our 2 middle blockers for sure, and Christy and Emily, our starters, they can be offensive, and they can play against 6'3" kids and do just fine. So I think we're going to force the issue to get them more balls, need to establish them. Probably the only thing I'm just a little bit disappointed in is Emily's blocking number. She's a way better blocker than what she showed last weekend, and we've talked about it this week that we need for her to put up better blocking numbers for us, which will help our defense, and that we expect to give both of them more balls this weekend.
Now, in a lot of sports, when you get involved on the offensive side of things, it helps you also get involved a little bit more on the defensive. Is there something to that?
I think so. I think, even talking just about a kid like an Emily Sharon, she's at her best when both parts of her games is going, and if we're feeding her balls and she's getting kills for us, I think she blocks better just because that's the intensity she has, and vice versa. So I think she might have been a little off last weekend by not blocking as many balls as she would like to, so that made her a little bit hesitant on the offensive side. But her and Christy both worked extremely hard. I thought Christy blocked the ball pretty well last weekend for her because she's a little bit more known for her offensive numbers, and we definitely want to get them both more involved.
What 1 or 2 aspects will you look at Saturday night if you all are able to win the home tournament this weekend and say, you know what, that's where we won this tournament?
Well, I would have to hope that it comes that we did pick up our digging numbers and that we get middle blockers and Bianca to be a little bit more offensive for us. For us to be successful throughout the next 16 weeks of this season, those 3 kids need to have a lot more kill production for us, and I think they will.
Thank you, Diane, and good luck this weekend.
Great, thanks.